Not an ideal start then for England. Before she joins us live shortly, talkSPORT's Courtney Sweetman-Kirk caught up with England's Lucy Bronze and asked the defender if that disallowed Russo goal cost the Lionesses.
Yeah, maybe getting that chalked off was swing the momentum a little bit. I think France then kind of booked their ideas up, played really well. We struggled maybe in the second half after that. Lost a bit of our quality, lost a bit of our energy and enthusiasm, and France capitalised on that. I think then going 2-0 down was a difficult game to come back against anyone, let alone France. But yeah, the fight at the end was good to get a goal back. Probably left it a little bit too late to really push them.
Joining us now then, as I mentioned, it is the former Liverpool and Sheffield United forward, Courtney Sweetman-Kirk. Morning to you, Courtney. How are you?
Courtney.
Good morning, both. I'd have been better with an England win, but
Yes.
Still got a smile on my face.
Yeah, a real deflating way to start, not just because of the defeat, but the performance in general, Courtney. It was just so below par.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's what worried me more than anything. I think the first 20 minutes we were really dominant. Obviously, at the end, we put on a good showing to try and get ourselves back into the game. Obviously, it was just a little bit too late. But yeah, that middle section, I think a lot of England fans, obviously pundits and commentators alike watching will be a little bit worried with that performance in the middle for sure.
There were issues, Courtney, fullback areas, especially. But Lucy Bronze had a tough evening, and Jess Carter, I mean, handling my namesake,
Cascarino, yes.
Delphi Cascarino, who was really hot on the night. It's caused a lot of problems, and I felt for Jess Carter because that's not her natural position, and yet I thought the wide areas where France really made a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cascarino and De Almeida specifically down that side were absolutely excellent. And yeah, I think, individually those fullbacks didn't have the best of games. Jess Carter's one was a bit different. I think she was getting doubled up on in terms of she didn't get the help maybe from Lauren Hemp tracking back, or in terms of stopping it at source in the midfield as well. I don't think England were good enough doing that. On the other side, I think to a degree maybe at times Lucy Bronze caused her own problems because we know she's an attacking fullback. She likes to get forward, but obviously our Chelsea teammate Sunday Baltimore is great, fantastic player at getting forward, got that pace and probably knew as well that Lucy was going to get forward, so there was going to be that space in behind Lucy to exploit. And then it's a decision, isn't it, for the centre-halves. Do you stay and try and protect your goal? Do you come out? When you do that, obviously there's more gaps everywhere else. So, at times England were certainly at 6s and 7s in the defence.
We spoke about it earlier on, Courtney, where we were saying, look, it's not all doom and gloom. You can lose a group game and still go through. The problem is it's the Netherlands who are up next, and they had a storming start, beating Wales 3-0. And obviously there are lots of stories with Beth Mead and Vivian Miedema, for example, that make it all the more interesting as well. But it just puts a lot of pressure on the Lionesses, doesn't it, going into that game on Wednesday?
Yeah, it does. I think, in an ideal world, obviously you want to win the game. But I said before the game, a draw, I think, is a good result against a good France side. And obviously just to get a point on the board. But you're right. And what worries me about the Netherlands, one, obviously they've got fantastic players through the team. We saw Viviane Miedema's goal yesterday. She can make something out of nothing. But again, they've got great wide players in terms of Casper Rye's got bags of pace, so has Esme Brooks as well. So in terms of that issue that France caused last night, obviously the Netherlands will be looking at that thinking, well, we've got wide players that are just as good, just as fast. So then that begs a question in terms of, Serena Wigman England, did they stay the same in terms of the formation? Did they change the personnel? I think, me and Tash and Joe Shannon spoke about it yesterday. In terms of like-for-like replacements in those areas, we've not really got anything that changes in terms of pace. So then it might be the fact we saw towards the end of the game, the Lionesses went to a 3 at the back. They went with wing-backs in Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp. So maybe it might spell a little bit of a change in formation for the Lionesses.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at and you go, well, who was England's best player? And you probably go, well, Hannah Hampton in goal. She was probably the best, caught well, handled things. It could have been worse on the night. So Serena Wigman has got lots of issues to find out about her team. Russo's a top striker. You've got players there that you'd think, There's capability there. There's a team that can make something happen. Seeing Russo being so isolated for such long periods, and that she's got a capable goal record.
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head there, Cask. In terms of Leslie Russo, I thought she worked really hard yesterday. The way she was dropping in, linking play, she was doing really well in terms of her hold-up play, winning fouls. But in terms of the service, and everything that was around her, she's got to be looking round at her teammates, and maybe Alessia Russo as well needs to be a little bit more nasty in that sense and be turning around and be like, girls, come on, I'm doing all this work, I'm making these runs, but I'm not getting the service. So, that's something that needs to be looked at. But you're right in terms of, for me, I think Alessia Russo, Hannah Hampton were the best players on the pitch. I think Lauren James, obviously, a moment showed what she's about. Probably should have done better with the opportunity in the first minute, at least hit the target. But obviously, she's still not fully fit. And when I spoke to Serena Wiegman after the game, she was. Now I said to her, "Is it always the case that Lauren was going to come off at that time as she on limited minutes?" And she said it was. So it'll be an interesting one to see, what happens for her throughout the tournament and whether she can build her fitness into a 90.
One thing that also I remember seeing, Jess Carter afterwards spoke about feeling as though that there was a bit of. They were a bit scared coming up against this France team. And I know they turned out to be very physical, this France team, and brilliantly so. But does that worry you when you hear players talking about feeling scared?
Yeah, it does. I think it's one thing to feel it, but I think obviously to come out and admit it as well. I think it's quite an interesting thing to say. And don't get me wrong, like, France are a fantastic team. We've seen it, that forward line in particular, the forward line that started and then the forward line that they then proceeded to bring on that front three. And so, look, they're a great team, but I think that fear is interesting because you think that England, they should come into this defending champions. Obviously, they've got to the World Cup final. They were beaten by Spain, albeit, but you feel that before the tournament, Spain and England were the favourites, so they should go in that with bags of confidence, sort of heads held high, thinking, right, everyone's got to try and take this off us and be confident in that. But maybe that works the other way in the fact that they know they've got a bit of a target on their back. Everyone's trying to take the European trophy off them, so maybe there is a bit of fear in the camp, and that's what we've seen in that moment yesterday, where I think it changes the dynamic. That goal, I've looked at that picture, by the way, the semi-automated picture, 1,000 times now, and I still can't work out where that offside is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, there's the Netherlands next up for England. Big game. Beat Wales 3-0 comfortably, which wasn't a real big surprise because Wales' first tournament. Yeah. So a challenge they can't be frightened of playing the Netherlands. They're going to have to show a lot of character because this is going to be another tough game for them.
Yeah, they're going to have to come out. They're going to have to be on the front foot and try and get an early goal. And look, it's all been said before the tournament, group of death. So we knew coming into this it was going to be a really tough group. But the fact of the matter is the way that it works in terms of goal difference and head-to-heads and obviously points. We need a result. There's no two ways about it. But Netherlands are a fantastic team throughout. I think I was looking at the team sheet yesterday and you're thinking, yeah, fantastic player, brilliant player, brilliant player. They've got it throughout. So, and as I mentioned, that pace on the wings is something that bothers me. But that's obviously something that England are going to have to find a solution for. Yeah.
Just finally, I suppose. I mean, it's never good when you're chasing a game like we saw with England, but the last sort of 10 minutes or so, when England got that goal, and it felt as though, and even Emmett Hayes actually said it afterwards, they just had a little bit more time. We always say this, don't they? If they had 5-10 minutes more, they might have got an equaliser. It felt like it was turning. In a way, can they take a positive from that final sort of 10 minutes and sort of say, look, we can be aggressive, we can be on the front foot?
Yeah, they have to. There's no choice. They have to take confidence from that, because if they don't, they're going to, go into the Netherlands game in terms of not being in the right place psychologically. So, I was impressed with Adjaman. Even though she only had 5 or so minutes, the way that she comes on, she's so aggressive. And I spoke to Serena Wiegman before the tournament, and she was saying she brings something a bit different. I said, what is the difference she brings? And it was that physicality. She's aggressive. She's not bothered in terms of that ignorance is bliss at that age, isn't it? She's got no fear. She just comes on the pitch, nearly scored. Obviously, we saw the wonder goal in the Nations League, wasn't it, against Belgium, how well she did there. So, yeah, I think there's positives certainly from the first 20 minutes and the last 10. But, as we know in football, you've got to put a more coherent performance together in these major tournaments, because it's really fine margins.
Indeed. Listen, it's been fantastic to chat to you, Courtney. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Courtney.
Bring us the luck on Wednesday.
Thank you both. Speak soon.